There is ice on the road. You have to be really careful here. You don't see a lot of motorcyclists unless they're really into motorcycling out on the roads. Oh, my tire was like slipping there. So the dangerous thing about today is if you look to the right there, you see that ice. What happens is that with this sort of temperature, even though it's above freezing, it could develop ice in the middle of the road, black ice, because areas that are shaded generally will develop some sort of ice. It's been asked before if the Super Tenere makes a good beginner bike, and I had a guy ask me that, and I wasn't sure what to say because, you know, it is a 1200cc bike, and adventure bikes do make very good bikes to start out with because they don't make like crazy power, but they are powerful. But because of the modes and the way you sit, they're not too terrible if you're starting out getting an adventure bike. There was a guy that wanted to get a Super Tenere like this as a first bike, and I told him I think you'd be better off getting something smaller because you're going to drop it, and this is a very big bike to drop. Look at all the ice on the road there. And I kind of want to say that it is an advanced bike, but the thing is, it doesn't have the power an advanced bike has. You know, that's the beauty of the Tenere. It's underpowered. That's why it's so reliable. So this thing will take 200,000 miles. It probably will outlast the life of the rider, which is kind of a crazy claim. But it feels like it's a good bike. I could actually see the moon over there. It's a good bike for beginners. I hate to say it, but you have to be a very big person because 600 pounds is a lot to kind of toss around. Ooh, that guy kind of scared me. It is a little bit of a bigger bike to toss around. And I think you're kind of doing yourself a disservice because a slimmer, smaller adventure bike makes a better beginner bike just because it doesn't have that large rotational mass. You know, the V-Strom makes an excellent beginner bike because it's, what is it, 490 pounds. That's a big difference. You know, even if it's like 50 pounds, it makes a big difference. So a lot of people, they just want to jump into motorcycling and get like the biggest bike. You know, you see that a lot in sport bikes. So these guys, they get 600s and then they're like into thousands, but they barely know how to ride. And then they just proceed to crash and scare themselves from the sport of motorcycling. And I think that's what I see a lot in America. It's just a bunch of guys that get very big bikes because they're big. They're big guys and they're afraid of looking stupid. You know, the V-Strom 650 is a much better adventure bike than this one, just because it's lighter. You know, if Yamaha did a couple of things to lighten the load of this, it would make it a better bike. And the chain is also a more efficient way of making power. So, you know, you can tell the power that this has. It's got more torque and everything. But with the V-Strom, you would be hard-pressed to be able to get away from a guy that's riding a V-Strom in the twisties and who can ride well. You're just not going to get away. That's the sad part of it. That's why guys on 600cc's can keep up with guys with 1000s without any issues. It's because sometimes a smaller engine size has a different feel, like it feels lighter, even though on paper it could potentially be that they could be like similar weight. I've seen GSXRs that have close to the same weight as a 250, but the thing is, when you have a 250, it feels different. It feels like much more nimble. A guy was making fun of me for saying that the Ninja 250 feels like a bicycle, and I guess he said that I didn't know much because you don't want a motorcycle to handle like a bicycle, but I think he missed the point that it's just not handling like a bicycle. It's the dexterity and the flickability a motorcycle has when it has a smaller engine. And of course now with modes, adventure bikes come with very easy ways of tossing you around, and you don't need to limit yourself to full power all the time. Kind of don't feel that you need to get a 1000cc and up as an adventure bike. And it kind of seems like it limits you. You know, the bigger the bike in adventure, the more it limits you. And it's very much exactly that. It just limits you. Yeah, this bike is really good. You know, one of the things I don't like from owners of bikes is that they're really not honest in talking about problems with bikes. You know, I talk about all the problems that this one has, and I always see in the comments people get very upset. It's like, oh, if I say it's heavy, people complain, well, why don't you do some push-ups? You know, when I was complaining about the FJR, that was like so many people that just kind of took all the criticism I had and were making fun of me. And I stand by my comments. The FJR, it's a great bike, but it's extremely top heavy. And it's a great bike. I mean, 4-cylinder, it's a rocket ship. A very comfortable rocket ship. But unfortunately, it is an extremely heavy bike. You cannot deny it. And I hate that Yamaha puts that, you know, battery right up top. Remember, you're getting this because of the ultra reliable Yamaha engine. And if you were to get a GS, I mean, you're going to be a BMW guy that's going to be doing a lot of maintenance. And of course, I looked at comparable bikes by the same year, and you're talking about, I think, close to double what I paid for this bike. So it doesn't feel like you get a great deal from a BMW, and then you have to spend BMW money to fix it when things do go wrong. And notice I said I didn't say if they go wrong. They do go wrong on BMWs. That's the main issue with BMW, is that it's always going wrong. And it seems like I'm a hater of BMW, but I've had 2 BMWs, and in the time I had them, I had issues and working on them, guys tell me how simple they are. No, they're not simple at all. And then you need special tools. You know what I like about Japanese bikes? I got these tools, and then I just move on to another bike. I got the same tools. And I don't need to get different tools. But the BMWs, man, it's the first bike that I've ever had that needed a clutch. Like, the clutch went bad on it. Like, I've never had a bike that had a bad clutch, ever. Like, I don't know who are the guys that are, like, destroy clutches on bikes, but whenever I see a clutch breaking, I just go like, oh, the guy's doing wheelies or whatever. I've never had a clutch go bad on a Japanese bike. Never. It's just kind of incredible. So with the BMW, there was like throttle syncing issues that I couldn't figure out. There was like tools that all of these BMW guys have. They get together and they like work on their bikes. Working on your bikes is something that BMW guys really enjoy, and I'm not part of that whole thing. I'm not really into let's get together and work on bikes. You know, I work on bikes, but I would rather be out riding. You know, I think that's the thing. You know, I want bikes in my stable that are just super reliable, that I can just depend on for riding instead of fixing. And I think the Japanese do have a much better system. They're better engineers than the Germans by far. You know, I haven't really heard the major malfunctions. I've heard of a few, and I think there was 2 malfunctions that I heard, and they were done because of people riding off-road, and it hit the drain or the bottom of the engine, and it made a hole in the engine. So that was a rock that actually hit the bottom of the engine. So I'm not really sure if I blame Yamaha for that. And then there was another, it was some sort of weird engine problem that nobody has ever heard of. So I better slow down here. There's some ice over here. You see that? This is ice on the road and snow. And then here's some more ice. Jesus. This is... You could be going around that corner and just hit that and just go fly, you know, off. This is why you need to... Oh, these are very, very slick right here. These overpasses over creeks. So only heard of a few malfunctions on the Tenere. Otherwise, the bike is essentially perfect. The 03, the 13s and 14s, oh no, 14s and 15s and up were better because the Yamaha made some changes to the engine. Because apparently on these 12s and 13s, the engine is loud. And it's got like a usual Yamaha ticking. Yamahas have been known for ticking. It's something with a cam chain or something. But I'm fine with that. I use earplugs and I don't hear the ticking. Another super benefit of these Super Teneres is that it has a 27,000 mile valve adjustment interval. And I think you'll enjoy that because I think the valve adjustments on this are difficult to do. Look at all this crap. That's from flooding. You'll enjoy this massive tractor. And that's how it feels like. It's got so much torque. You know, KTM 1290 with the, like I think 30 more horsepower does not have... Oh shit, look at this. Oh, I'm glad I slowed down. This is when you need traction control. That is icy. Just go through here really slow. Yeah, KTM with like more horsepower, 30 horsepower, doesn't have as much torque as this bike. And you know that's what the V-twins are great at. V-twins don't sound good on paper, but the way they make power, the way they have the torque is really what matters when it comes to riding. And I think that's why this bike kind of like loses people, because on paper it's like they see, oh, it's got 110 horsepower, oh, the BMW and the KTM have more horsepower, but they miss out that torque. You know, the torque is really good on this.